Is God trustworthy? Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Mary Beth.
Join us as we seek to answer this question through wholehearted conversation.
Discover the wit and wisdom that comes from being anchored in Christ and connected to one another.
This is Trustworthy. On this episode of Trustworthy, we talk to our friend Leslie Thomas about how grief is like a ball of yarn. You never know what you're going to get. This episode is a little longer than normal and a little more emotional, so you may want to take a break in the middle. Without further ado, I take you now to our conversation. Well, hello there, Mary Beth.
Hi, Sarah. I don't want to be awkward, but there's somebody else here
In the room with us.
Yeah.
Well, hello there, Leslie Thomas.
Hello.
What?
We're just creeping in the corner over here. Don't mind me.
She's not creeping,
Not creeping.
at all.
A welcome addition to
Yes.
our little universe here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
We have been, true confession,
Oh, boy.
we have been thinking about, hoping, and dare I say, planning to have you since before we...
I know. I was like, kind of since the beginning.
Almost
oh,
even,
my
yeah.
goodness.
We're like, if we're going to have a guest,
It's got to be Leslie Thomas.
I better
Leslie
not
Thomas better be on that
disappoint.
list.
No pressure.
What an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Just a little background. Leslie is our friend. So she did know us before she came here today.
Before I signed off on
She
it.
might not be our friend after this.
But,
Or vice versa. The jury's still out.
well, yeah, right. But we know her from church. She is an amazing singer. She is a teacher in our women's ministry. She's a blogger. She's a mom. The list goes on to
She's a creative
youth minister
through and through.
Creative through and through. Yeah.
Is this why I'm so exhausted all the time?
Yes.
All those things you just lined up.
She has a flower business. What else? There's so many things.
Yeah. Look, we're not bored over here. Put it that way.
That's right. Maybe, Leslie, you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and then we'll dive into some discussion today.
Sure. My name is Leslie Thomas, and I live with my family in the Downingtown, Pennsylvania area. My family is my husband, Mitch, and then we have 4 kiddos. Our youngest is Haven. She's 18 months, and she's a firecracker. Like, too much personality for one 18-month-old, but we love her. And then I have Callahan. He just turned 4, and he is our class clown. I have Holden, who is 6, just likes to do all the things and be involved and try all the new things. And then we have Camry, who would be 8 this December. She's our angel baby, so she's hanging out with Jesus. And we're going to go into her story a little bit later, but that's our crew. I guess that's probably beyond being a Christ follower. That's my next in line of how I identify myself and where I spend most of my time and energy. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
And how long have you and Mitch been married?
We were married in 2013. Is that right, guys? Look, it's only Tuesday and I couldn't even tell you.
I don't know.
We're roughly 11 years.
Like, I don't know how long you've been married. Yes, 11 years this past September. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well,
Nice.
Sarah,
Yes.
I feel like just listing all those responsibilities blows my mind a little bit. So, Leslie, I'm impressed that you're even just here right now.
Yeah. We're very grateful to have you with us.
Oh, like I said, it's a joy. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Speaking of joy,
Joy. Oh, yeah.
nice segue,
It's
Leslie.
almost like,
It's almost like you set us up for that.
oh my goodness,
Thank
you are
you.
so welcome.
Well, one of the things we did want to discuss today is kind of how do we find joy when life may not always feel joyful, right? There's going to be some hard things. You and your family have experienced some hard things. So I guess first, tell us a little bit more maybe about Camry's story and how that has looked like both grief and how you have maybe managed to still pursue joy maybe not despite the grief. Maybe, you tell us what that has been like.
Yeah. So Camry was born in 2016, in December 2016, and I had a very normal pregnancy. In fact, I was 41 weeks and had to be induced. So I always joke that if we didn't induce her, she'd still be in there. It was the Christmas cookies, I think, all those Christmas cookies I was eating. She was like, yeah,
this is
I'm
nice.
gonna hang here. Yeah. So she was induced, and then I ended up having a C-section, and again, nothing out of the ordinary with the pregnancy, with the labor, with the delivery. And then when she was born, this was at Chester County Hospital, she was not breathing. And so the short story is she was airlifted to CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, that evening. So this was December 28th. And I'm sorry, December 20th. See, guys,
All right.
4 kids. My mind's scrambled. She was born December 20th and then airlifted that night. From there, she lived for a month in CHOP while we tried to figure out why was she in the condition she was in. So she was hooked up to a machine called ECMO, which did the work of her heart and her lungs because they were not functioning on their own. And while we tried to figure out what's going on here, after a month, she had a biopsy done of her lungs, and it was determined that her lungs had stopped developing somewhere in the first trimester. And so they just were too small. And so she was never going to be able to breathe on her own. And we made the decision on January 20th. So this is now 2017. It's been about a month to remove her off of ECMO. Because at that point they were just keeping her alive for us to spend time with her. And so we decided to remove her from the machines, and she lived for 25 minutes, and then she danced her way into Jesus' arms. Yeah, and we've been on the road of navigating what it feels like and means to have a child that we are parents of, but in a totally different way than maybe we anticipated ever since. You know, it's that road of grief and a different level of faith journeying than maybe we could have imagined. But she would be 8, almost 8, coming up this winter. For now, she's hanging with Jesus till we get to go too.
Leslie, one of the things that has really deeply impressed me about your story is that you and Mitch have deliberately chosen to keep Camry alive in the sense that she is one of your 4 children. She is part of your lives, and you've introduced her other siblings to her in all the ways that you can, including a beautiful Christmas card that your family sends out every year, in which one or the other of you is holding her portrait.
Yep. She's in there.
And it's interesting to me because I find that that's so brave. I think that engaging with the grief in that way is not easy. And I think that so many times as women, we tend to focus on what we have to do right now and sort of let the things that are uncomfortable, the losses, the griefs, just be swept under the rug, maybe to be kept for those private moments that we as women have sometimes when we can sit with our griefs, but not always talked about so openly. So that was a very long lead up to my next question.
I'm tracking. I'm with you.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Why did you and Mitch make the decision to deliberately include her? And what are some of the ways that you have done so?
Yeah. So I think to start, everyone does grief differently. And we've talked with people who have experienced the loss of a child, and they do it. They're dealing with their grief way differently than we are. And that's okay. We know people who, after losing their child, they couldn't bear to have the pictures up. And I guess, that reminder to be there. And so they took a different route. And again, everyone does it differently. And there's really no right way to do it because it's just not how it's supposed to be. This is not how it's supposed to be. And we are championing towards eternity. That's how it's supposed to be, Eden and eternity. And so while we're here dealing with the brokenness, there's really no right way to do it. And so I guess the decision for how we chose to enter in and to incorporate Camry probably started out as just desperation of wanting to do what we had set out to do in the first place, which was to have a kid and welcome our daughter. And no part of the, besides the pregnancy, which was very normal, but as soon as she was born, no part of her life and our experience as her parents looked anything like what we had been, I say promised, nothing's promised, but what had been told to us about what's normal and what, the picture you paint in your head. And I never got skin to skin time. We never heard her cry because she was on tubes. The first time I held her was the day before she died because it had finally been determined that she would not live. And so that's when they allowed us to hold her. And so it just didn't look like what we had thought it was going to look like. And so when I say desperation to just do the thing, we just wanted our girl. And so what felt right after she died and how we coped with that initial grief was just to incorporate her as part of our family like we had just been so desperately yearning to do. And so our house all of a sudden became very pink. Her picture, you walk in our house and there are 4 kids because her picture is up just like all the other kids. We had a whole nursery that was designed for her and that stayed like that for a good long while. The ceiling is still pink in there and Haven enjoys, they share a room now, which is very sweet. We just found ways that felt right in the immediate to, I guess, calm that, I don't even know the word, calm that desperation of just wanting her here. So we just let ourselves have her in the ways that we could. And I would say that has expanded and changed and developed as time has gone on. We're always looking for creative ways to incorporate her as part of the family in ways that are healthy, and I think there's a line, everyone has that line of, okay, is this healthy or is this holding something too tightly that maybe needs to be let go to the Lord? And so we're always trying to toe that line and find what that balance is and find it for ourselves and find it with our children. Because now we have 3 other children that know they have a sister, but they don't get to see her and they've never gotten to meet her. And so what does it look like to foster a sibling relationship between them and her? And what does that look like in a godly way? I can go into some of the, you want some of the tangibles about what it looks like?
Absolutely. I was just wondering, because, Holden, I know is friends with my boys. And so I'm just thinking they're roughly the same kind of stage of life. And there are a lot of questions and a lot of thoughts that come with that stage of life. And so I'm guessing that's like a new kind of thing that you and Mitch are having to tackle too, is kind of what you're alluding to is as these other children are growing up, how do we parent them and still try to be the appropriate parent to Camry? And that's just a lot on your plate. So I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
So some of the tangibles, her pictures is as many places as everyone else's picture. She gets a Christmas stocking. She gets an Easter basket. Usually they end up being filled with things that the whole family can enjoy. We celebrate her birthday. She gets a birthday cake. The kids get to bake the cake and they choose what it looks like. And it's usually pink with a ton of sprinkles on it. And so we try and incorporate her into the rhythms that feel life-giving, but also fun. It was really important for us to give our other children an experience of Camry that's a full one. And by that, I mean, there's just no way to hold her and hold space for her without some of the harder, really sorrowful, just hard emotions. And so they've been very exposed to that. We've been very communicative of, this is just a really hard day. I'm just really missing Camry. They're very well acquainted with that. But we also wanted to make sure that that was not their only experience of their sister, where it's just this deep hurt and pain. And so we worked really hard to make sure that they also have encounters, if I can use quotations there, with her that are fun. And a silly one is she's also part of our Halloween costume.
Okay, the Thomas family has epic Halloween costumes.
Yes.
I mentioned that Leslie is creative. It's not an exaggeration. Like, they go all out.
I mean, it has turned into something that has been such a fun, and okay, we don't take her trick or treating. That would, again, the line,
You don't
right?
want to freak people out.
No. The frame does not come
Halloween
trick-or-treating.
is spooky enough. Yeah.
Right. But we have traditionally gotten our family pictures taken around the fall time. And so it's kind of been a mini tradition to also throw our Halloween costumes on. At the end of my sister-in-law takes her pictures. And so she always takes a few of us in our costumes. And so for that experience, we have incorporated Camry and we just decorate her frame. It's the most hilarious thing.
That is funny.
And that lightheartedness of letting her be a part of the family in a way that everyone else is, I think allows what you were saying, Sarah, that joy to coincide with the grief in a way that has felt really good for us. Like you said, she's on the Christmas card. So she's there. And it has been really amazing to watch the fruits of, all of these decisions were very intentional, and it wasn't like a light decision to make, because every decision around Camry, it's just hard because I just wish she was here. To have stocking for a child that's not here, it is heartbreaking. You make these decisions in the lead up and then you wonder, like, are we doing this right? And then I hear my kids rattle off their lineup of siblings and she's in there without missing a beat because they're just used to hearing about her. They're just used to talking about her. They'll correct people when, unbeknownst to them, they see 3 kids and they say, oh yeah, you have 3 kids. They'll correct people and say, oh no, I have an older sister. She's with Jesus. Like, it's nothing. And that is such a special fruit of all of the intentional decisions to get to witness. And then, Mary Beth, what you were saying about now that our kids are of question asking age, how dare they, right? Yeah, we've had conversations about things that I don't think we would have had at this point if it weren't for the way our family is currently structured. And we've had a lot of conversations about, where is Camry? How do we get to heaven? How does Jesus bring us up to heaven? The current running decision on that is it's a rocket ship.
That's awesome.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Right?
One.
I'm like, well,
Who
I
am I
don't
to
know.
say? Yeah,
So
exactly.
absolutely, all aboard. And so we have had conversations about just things around grief and around God and where Camry is and where we get to go someday that are not easy, but they've been a blessing. And it's been neat to watch that unfold. I don't know if I could have guessed what it would look like, but guys, I don't have any control over this. I'm just along for the ride. And this is how it's unfolded so far.
Hey, listeners. Mary Beth and I need your help. We would like to have your input for our Thankful Thanksgiving Gratitude episode. And maybe some input on a better title for that one. Anyway, drop us a line and tell us who or what you're thankful for this fall. Talk to you soon. While you were talking about your children's response to adults or other people that might be like, oh, you've got 2 siblings. And they're like, no, I have 4. Camry's with Jesus. I think about when my son was 3.5, and many of you may already know this, some may not, but his father had passed away, and it was a very difficult situation. But he had been very curious, where is my daddy? For some time, I wasn't able to really give a clear answer. But when I was able to tell him, Daddy's in heaven, his 3.5-year-old mind was very accepting and satisfied. He just wanted to know where he was.
Where? Right.
Where is he?
Right.
I need to know where he is. It's okay that he's in heaven with Jesus. And so when I think about how your children are just accepting of the fact, and what better care?
Right.
What better care? That's something I think that we often overlook. And I know in my just frenetic desire to just control every aspect of my child's life and the life of myself and the people that I care about. And we can't have anyone experience any hurt or pain and there's nothing that we can do to control. You are right. We are between Eden and eternity. And this world is difficult, to say the least. But Jesus didn't leave us. We're not left as orphans. We have a home that we're working towards. And so I guess that balance of having your two hands in front of you and holding in one the grief and in the other the joy, but not grasping so tightly to either one, holding each one with an open hand. With that picture in your mind, and being that the theme of our podcast is trustworthy, how have you found God to be trustworthy as you balance those things?
Oh, man. I struggle with this question because my trust in God, I don't think ever wavered, but my trust in that it most likely will turn out the way I want it has been, leveled. And there's been fallout from that. There's been a lot of fallout from that. I have to work really hard to want to sing lyrics to some songs. Because from how I've experienced the healing and the providence and the fill in the blank, the promises of God in some capacities. This is not overall, because when I step back and look at all the wonderful miracles that he's done in my life, and especially in Camry's, I also cannot sit here and say, like, you abandoned me. Say, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. No, I can't say that at all. But I also struggle with the maybe casual way that we tend to throw around, scripture like faith as small as a mustard seed, and knock and you'll find, and ask and it'll be given. Because I did that. And thousands of people I didn't know. We got messages from people we didn't know across the world. We are praying for Camry, and she's dead. And so I have to reevaluate what trusting in God looks like, trusting that he is who he says he is. And yet I can't assume that it's going to be how I wanted it to be or how I think it should have gone, or fill in the blank. And in terms of that bit about grief and joy and trusting, and how have I seen or learned God differently or more so through this, I will say that, there was a time shortly after she died where I could not be bothered. By anything. I didn't care about anything. And I just would rather have, to be blunt, I would have rather been there than here. Again, that was coming from a place of desperation. Like, well, she's not here, so I just want to be where she and you, God, are. That's where I want to be. It would probably be easier to not be here. That slowly shifted from a desperation. Like, I remember in that time frame, one of those dates that comes around where there's all this lore about, like, oh, this is the day that Jesus is coming back, whether all the numbers line up or the Mayan this or that, whatever. One of those dates happened, and I was like, all right, Jesus, I don't know what's going on. But like, if this is the day, I'm ready to go. Just come on back. And so there was that, but eventually over time, that desperation turned from just like not wanting to be here. And I would say that's, in an unhealthy way, to yearning to be in eternity in a healthy way. And I really saw my faith be challenged and then grow in that, because I think like up until that point, I mean, I was a youth pastor, a Christ follower for ever since I can remember. And so this idea of heaven is not new to me. However, when someone that you love is all of a sudden there and not here, like that idea of heaven and eternity just snapped right into perspective for me. And all of a sudden it felt very tangible in a way that maybe it didn't before. I'm really grateful for that, because eternity means so much more to me now than it did before. And my yearning has turned from desperation into this unbridled, fiery hope and assurance that that's where we get to be if we love and declare Jesus as Lord. Taking it back to that trustworthy bit, being able to trust that God is who he says he is, and that is what he's promised. And oh my goodness, what a promise to be able to trust. It's a lifeline for me. I don't know how people lose anyone or lose a child, fill in the blank, without knowing, like you said, Sarah, oh, I know where they are. Yeah. And I know, because I love Jesus, that I will get to see them and the Lord again. I think that trust in that has lit my soul on fire in a way that has made living here on earth not a drudgery up until I get to go to heaven, but just a joy that, all right, I know where I'm going. I know where she is. I know where I get to be someday. And so, darn it, while I'm here, we're going to have some fun, and we are going to live, because that's also a gift. And it went from being a burden to, man, what an honor that I get to live here. And then I get to live there.
I think that's a common thing I've heard from people who've experienced various forms of grief, is what you're saying, when that perspective kind of snapped into perfect focus. There is a lightness about this life here. Because, I mean, we can all get bogged down, and life here is hard and not perfect, and not, as you said, not how it was supposed to be. And there are kind of two ways we can handle that. We can let it weigh us down, or we can live with that alternate perspective. Yeah, but we don't have to carry that heaviness. And we have a hope that there is another place, and he is there, and we get to be there. And so I think just living with that, I don't think lightness is the right word, but my vocabulary is struggling this morning.
No, I like that.
But
I like
just
that lightness.
Like that you're not weighed down anymore, even though you have experienced the hardest grief you can experience on earth. You know what I mean? Like that has not weighed you down. It's actually let you live in a new way.
Maybe that's what Paul was talking about when he said these light and momentary troubles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I went from I don't care. And I don't care that meant I am so numb that it doesn't bother me if I'm here or there. It's not that kind of I don't care anymore. Now the I don't care is like, hey, you know what? It's cool. Yeah. This particular little thing, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And so when you say lightness, that resonates with me, because I'm going to just use that phrase, I don't care, went from such a heavy, dark version to like a life-giving, light, unburdened, joyful version. And when I think about that transition from one to the other, who am I to not trust God? Yeah. When I even just see, as I say it out loud, I'm like, wow. And I, it's not going to always be yes. Yeah. But look what God is and does and has done and will do.
One of my very favorite passages, which I probably have shared on this podcast already, is Psalm 27:13. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living.
Mm-hmm. You want to unravel me? You just talk about anything about what's to come, in the land of the living. Yeah. That'll do it every time.
as we kind of encounter, we, the collective we of the world, encounter people who are, there's people in our lives all the time who are experiencing some form of grief. Maybe someone encountered you in that season where it was dark, right? And someone else might encounter you in this season where you've kind of moved past some of that. How do we, as fellow believers especially, but just as fellow humans, what advice would you give to people who are trying to help and encourage those who are going through a season of grief?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a twofold answer. One, you have in the immediate, with whatever the instant is happening, like there's that immediate care, and then there's the long-term care. Just some quick tangibles for that immediate care. They still have to eat, and they're not going to want to make any motion to make that happen. The lawn still has to be cut. The groceries still have to be bought. And it's just, there's no bandwidth for any of that. So just show up in those ways. And I would say get really good at a ding dong ditch moment. Because what I did not have the capacity for is any kind of interaction with anyone beyond like our whatever immediate family. So I would say short-term care, tangibly, you can think about like what are the physical needs and then show up there, show up without needing anything in return. When it comes to long-term, one of the greatest gifts, and again, this is the way that we've dealt with grief. So everyone is going to be a little bit different. So I would say the preface to this is your relationship with that person should inform how you approach this. And I think you will know based on, the depth of your relationship, what is appropriate and what is not. For us, there is no greater gift than when someone acknowledges Camry as someone that's real and was here and whose life had a purpose and is remembered. I mean, people love to talk about their kids. That's and it's no different if your child is here or not. And in fact, it has been such a treasure when people choose to go out of their way to bring her up or to remember her or to say her name, because her name doesn't get said as much as Holden and Callahan and Haven. That's just how it goes. She's not here. And so it's the biggest gift when she gets included. We do it in our own home and in our own family, but for you to say that child's name or that person's name and to give reality to who God created them to be and the fact that they were here, because sometimes it's like, man, was that just a dream? And so when someone else steps in and shares either, hey, Camry came to my mind today and it made me smile, or I have this memory, this one really gets me. If someone has a memory that had to do with Camry, whether it be, I remember where I was when you first posted her picture, or if someone was one of the people that was in the hospital. Gosh, when she looked at me and just blinked so slowly, it just made me feel those nuggets of, those are treasures, because at the end of the day, I have not even 1 month's worth of actual pictures and videos and holdables of Camry, because that's how long her life was. And so any little nod to her or memory, that's a treasure it's gold to us because there's so few of them. And so for you to acknowledge someone else's child in this case, or, fill in the blank, loved one, that's a real gift that we have found to be just such a bright spot, to know that she was known beyond just the Lord and us, that she was known by people, and that she matters to someone. Just picture your child that's alive. Man, it just fills you up to know that they matter to someone besides you. And that doesn't change whether they're alive or not. And so I would say, especially like if you think about long term, the longer you get from the instance, probably the fewer and farther between mentions of their name and memories. That is a gift that you can give that family forever. And it will mean increasingly more to them the further out they get.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's some excellent advice. Thank you for that. You were talking about holding your children in your heart and mentioning their names and interacting. I'm just thinking, I'm picturing him in my mind. I'm picturing my mind, your kiddos putting sprinkles on a cake for Camry, decorating her cake. Yes. Oh, Camry likes lots of sprinkles.
Lots of
yes, she does.
We're just eating crayons over here.
Yeah. So
wax.
I just love the thought of your children, just all of them being so well loved. And then the ones that are here with you now, how much more might they feel loved knowing that their sister is so well loved by you?
Mm.
I think that's a gift. I'm just thinking about how celebrating her, including her, bringing her into every part and rhythm and cycle of your family, yes, is a gift for you, but also I think in even greater ways for your children. Not just that they know her, but that they can just sense the deep, deep love that you have.
Well, thank you. I can only hope.
Well, someday we'll know, right?
Someday we will know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Deep breaths.
I know. Okay. Deep breaths. That was great. I mean, I think my brain is just, the wheels are turning of, that's a lot of deep truth you've learned in the past 8 years. A crash course in it.
Yeah. Would I trade it? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my humanity coming out. Like, I would rather her be here than to have learned all of these life lessons. But,
then I just think of, I mean, I've talked with lots of Christian friends about this, and it's not like, I don't want this to come across in a arrogant way, but it's like, for people that don't know the Lord and don't have the hope that we have, like, what are they clinging to? We know, like, we want you to know this because we know. And why would we want anyone to live without that hope? Mm-hmm. And that kind of what your story is showing is that exactly what you're saying. You would trade it in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And yet look at all of the beauty that has come from it, is like, only God can do that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
The king of lies would never want that to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he desperately wants us to stay in that place of anger and distrust. Mm-hmm. And what's the word? Indifference, you know, the numbness.
Yeah. Like just trudging through and...
The I don't care, the heavy version of I don't care. Yeah. And like you said, I don't know. I truly don't know how anyone goes through something like this without the hope that it doesn't have to stay there. Right. Like we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We were not designed to stay there.
That's right. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, should we lighten things up a little, Sarah?
On a lighter note, we talked about that lightness. So I don't even dare to expect that you're going to reveal as we record this. I don't know when exactly this is going to be listened to.
I think I know.
But
where
as
you're
we
going.
record this, it is the beginning of October 2024 in beautiful Southern Chester County. And my burning question is, and I don't expect you to answer this.
Well, at least
the
you have your
Halloween
expectations appropriately
this year? Oh, she already answered the question.
All right. Here's what I can tell you. Today is Tuesday, and in our neck of the woods, I mean, I guess everywhere that has a Goodwill, but on Tuesdays at Goodwill, it's $2 Tuesday, which means that is prime Halloween costume hunting season. And so did I send my husband to Goodwill this morning with a list of, hey, we're going to need these pieces? Absolutely.
Is he in on it? Like, is he in as much as you are to the costumes? Or is he just like, I'll do this for you, Leslie?
The man let me paint a skeleton on his face 2 Halloweens ago. He's
love it.
He's like, you know what, let's just go for it and have some fun. So what I can tell you is that we have procured one fuzzy orange shirt for our 4-year-old for his piece of the costume.
Okay. A fuzzy orange shirt. Well, how about you tell us what the Halloween costume was last year.
Okay, that I can do. Well, we try and do just things that like the kids are excited about or into. And so way back when we've
Wait
done...
a minute, is that another clue?
Yeah, it is. Yep. Just ask Callahan. He'll tell you. Way back when, there's a child's storybook called The Little Blue Truck.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a big hit in our house for a little while. So we did Little Blue Truck several years ago. Holden was the Little Blue Truck.
Nice.
And Mitch was the Angry Dump Truck. And the rest of us were farm animals. I think the year before that, the song of choice was Down by the Bay. So we did Down by the Bay, and I was the bay. And
What did you wear?
I wore
I
like
saw that one.
all kinds of beach materials hot glued onto a skirt and a
Nice.
shirt. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And Holden was the watermelon, and Mitch was the whale with the polka dot tail. So yeah, Mitch just goes along with it,
Yeah.
clearly. And then we did Coco 2 years ago. We will never do that much face paint again. Absolutely not. And then last year we might have peaked last year. We did a circus. And so that was our first cut. Was it? I'm trying to think how old Haven is, right, guys? I told you 4 kids is too many kids for my brain.
She was little.
She was little. She was the lion. So she was the lion. Mitch was the strong man. Holden was a clown. But again, we peaked because Callahan, as a popcorn seller, it's just not going to get any better than that.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Well, and that actually reminds me, you have a website where you kind of share some of these awesome stories and photos of your family. Do you want to give a little plug?
Sure. So way back when people were blogging, I just started blogging, and it was about home DIY, home related stuff, and then took a sharp left, and then it has since evolved into a place where, since Cambry died, we've documented pretty much the whole journey, every one of her hospital updates to this network of people that were praying was put up there. And so that still is there if you're wanting to read through the entire medical journey and how it was happening in real time. That is there. And then beyond that, I've kind of made the commitment to documenting what it has felt like at each season of the grief. So there are posts from, I think the earliest one is like a month or a few weeks out after she had died. And so since then, just whenever I can always feel, the Lord always, it's time to write. If my heart starts to feel burdened with words that I just need to get out, I just start writing. It's been maybe the most honest expression of what it feels like at each, timestamp of this journey that I could give. And so all of that lives on the blog, in addition to some life stuff here and there. But the name of it is mitchandleslie.com, and it's just a whole mix of all the things.
Yeah.
I think
Which
that
is life, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And it would be an excellent resource for anyone that is sort of walking this same journey.
Yeah.
Who may be, either in front of, behind you.
Right.
We know that grief is not a straight line. I was so disappointed.
It'd be so much easier if it was.
When I
right?
first heard about the stages of grief, I was like, great, tell me what they are so I can move through them. And
Yeah. A good checklist, right?
Yeah. I love a good checklist.
Oh, me too, man. Do you add things to your list like after you've done them just so you can cross them off?
Yeah.
How did you know?
It takes one to know one. So I've added so many things to my grief checklist.
She's looking at my computer screen now, which is showing our podcast
What are you talking about,
checklist.
checklists?
What are you talking about? My
I know, if
notebook
only
that
were that
describes my
easy.
editing process. Yeah. There's so much in life that I think I have control over.
Yeah, and then the rug gets ripped out from you. Yeah, but you're right. Grief. It's not even like a winding road. I think our counselor described it as this big old ball of yarn that's just like the most tangled that you could get it, right? In and out and up and down. And sometimes you go forward and then right back and in and out and all over again. So yeah, we have had several people throughout the years who have, they'll get a message like, I just sent your blog to this friend who is fill in the blank. And That's another tick for the Lord in the trustworthy column. Like, gosh, I could never have pictured that. Again, would I choose it? No, I'm a human. I'm super sinful. But he's going to use whatever he wants to use for reconciliation and new life.
Mm.
Are y'all familiar with Kate Bowler? Do either of you know who she is? No? Okay.
Mm.
So she is a Duke Divinity professor and went through her own cancer journey and is an author and speaker and all these things. And so she has a book called Everything Happens because she was tired of people telling her everything happens for a reason.
Oh,
and she was like, no, everything just happens.
Yeah.
And she has this great Instagram series of reading things that people say to you when you're going through, like when she was going through cancer, and like just how unhelpful they are and maybe different ways we could frame them. So if you're looking for another resource of like how to help people through grief, anything by Kate Bowler, I would recommend because she's just so honest about it that like life sucks and
Yeah,
like
that's great.
everything happens.
That actually brings up an interesting question. Okay. And I know we're going to have to end here soon, but I'm just.
You don't want to listen to us for 4 hours?
No, I do like to hear myself talk, which is very helpful for podcasting when you're editing your own. But and again, there was no malintent, and so I'm not upset. But one of the most terrible things that somebody ever said to my son at 3.5 years old when his father died is, "Oh, you're the man of the house now. You got to take care of your mom." Like, what?
Man.
No.
Oh, man.
That is the most terrible thing ever to say. And so I was always like, I'm the parent and I decide. Your job is being a kid. So if there was one thing that we could laugh now, but what was the one thing like that you would not want people to say?
Don't say this.
Wow.
Somebody said to you that you're like, wow, just don't ever say that.
Huh. I don't know if it's funny now. All right, look, God does not need
Might
another
not be
angel.
funny.
No, he doesn't need another angel. He doesn't need us. He like, stop it with that. Someone said to me, and this was, a dear friend who was not, right? It's always, no one's trying to do anything like hurtful at all. How was it phrased? Something along the lines of, God gave this to you because he knew you could handle it. And I'm over here like, I absolutely, let's put a colorful word in there, cannot handle it. So
Thanks
would
for
anyone
that.
else like to? Right. So what is it that I did to earn such an honor? Because I'll absolutely not do that ever again. Right. So that, I think the heart there was, I really admire, maybe the characteristic you're looking to highlight is strength and bravery. But let's just remember that person's just putting one foot in front of the other because they have no other choice. And so just being thoughtful about that. And then finally, I would just handle the term God's will with like super careful hands. I think that we do a lot of that. We do a lot of God's will talk, and we're not going to go into that here because, again,
that
4
would be
hours
3
is a
other
long
episodes.
time, right?
It's actually an excellent idea for another episode.
Right, but just remembering Eden and eternity, and the Lord will use what we have, the brokenness, but we got to be really careful about laying claim over someone's horror as God's will. So those are my
Those are
not
excellent.
That was not his plan.
No.
It's not his plan for us.
His plan, Eden and eternity.
Yeah.
And let's be real careful about how we categorize things in between.
Well, I have to say that as disappointed as I am that we didn't get to any of your amazing comedic timing and absolutely hilarious comments that usually just leave me wanting more.
It's probably for the better. It's probably a good time to land the plane.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. I'm so honored. And so is Mary Beth. I'm going to speak for you, Mary Beth.
It's fine.
It's easier for you.
I'll get something to drink.
Yeah. What else can I say while I'm speaking for her? I speak for both of us that we are so incredibly honored. We are grateful that you shared your time with us, that you shared your story and your heart with us today. Listener, I hope that you can feel that and hear that. And we just pray that God uses your story and our time here together to to do to do his will.
Whatever he's going to
Whatever he wants.
do. You know what the cool thing is? We get to just release it. It's his job.
That's right.
It's his job. Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was a joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Until eternity, ladies.
Oh, I love that.
Hey, y'all. Mary Beth here. Sarah and I are so glad that you chose to listen to our podcast. And while we think that we're awesome friends to have, we just wanted to clarify that we are not mental health professionals and want you to know that this podcast should not take the place of any paid professional advice.
All right. It is time for On the Spot with Leslie Thomas.
This is a dangerous road you're going down.
It is so dangerous.
I've sent 3 kids off to school in a matter of like 30 minutes. So my brain is just,
Leslie Thomas, what was the last item that you took out of your diaper bag that you didn't want anyone else to know about?
I'm sure that it was probably a diaper that like should have come out. Should it be weeks ago? We'll go with that.
The smell tipped you
It's a
off.
very honest answer.
Yeah.
And
you know
one
what?
that I feel we could all probably identify with.
All right. Can you handle another one?
I don't know. Can I?
All right.
Lay it on me.
After your kids are in bed for the night. And
I'm
it's-
ready.
And it's like, all right, I'm an adult.
Yes.
What is the thing that you go to that you're like, I'm not going to like do this with the kids?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a Tupperware full of frozen chocolate chip cookie dough balls.
They don't know. Do they know it exists?
They know it exists, but there's some very strict parameters around that, meaning like, it's not yours. Yeah. And the reason I have to keep them frozen is because it takes a little bit more effort to inhale 14 of them as just like spooning raw cookie dough, which I'm not above.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my go-to.
That's smart. I might make a note of that for my future self.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a good one.
I do love some chocolate chip cookie dough.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
If you could be any animal, which one would you be?
Something that flies.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that?
Those dreams where you're just like randomly flying?
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of my favorite kind of dreams to have. So I think I would just want to be able to like launch off at any moment. So not a penguin. So anything else.
It's a
right?
bird.
Not a penguin.
Bird.
Anything that flies, but like also not a bug because,
Yeah. That's,
I get a bad
I feel
rap.
like it's a short lifespan there.
Right.
Got some
You're just
people
a
coming
one and
after you.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like more people like birds than they do bugs.
Sure. As someone who just got stung by a bee,
Yeah.
I'm
Do
a
you think-
bird person.
Do you think bugs have complexes because people don't like them?
Do they deserve it?
Yeah. I was like, let's talk about merit here for a second.
Bird. I'm gonna go with bird.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Any more hard hitting questions?
We could go on these all day. I'll do one more.
Okay.
What's something recently that one of your children did that made you laugh?
Oh goodness, which child? Someone said something wrong the other day, and it was hilarious. And Mitch went to correct him. I said, "Don't you dare!" I want him going to college saying that word like that, and I can't for the life of me remember. But that's. I'm sorry. That's
okay.
a half answer.
I have a note in my phone where I'm like, I gotta add that to
Oh yeah. Oh
gotta
yeah.
add that.
Oh, I remember what it was. Holden, our 6-year-old, he was telling us he was in like a corn maze that was super dark, and he goes, "It was pitch black in there." And I looked at Mitch. I said, "Don't you dare." Pitch black. Everybody.
Pitch
That's adorable.
black. That is pretty sweet. When my son was little, we lived near a little adventure corn maze place. It was called Corn Cob Acres.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this is what he called it: Cob Corn Bakers.
Oh,
Because it was corn cob bakers, and he got the cob corn,
Yeah,
so it was
yeah.
cob corn bakers. And I did
don't
not
correct him.
Yeah, still call it that. I hope.
Mm-mm.
Yes, just
Yep.
like the misheard lyrics. I still sing Love My Biscotti on Channel Z. And
Tell me more about what the real thing is.
Yeah.
Getting Nothing But Static, which was a previous episode. Yeah. Getting Nothing But Static. But
Oh, that's
I love my
funny.
biscotti.
Oh, I love that.
Anyway, well, thank you. Thank you for being willing to be grilled and be put on the spot.
Anytime.
All right. Over and out. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you like to hear our podcast and you wonder how to get more of them, just click the subscribe button and your app will tell you when we release a new podcast. Thanks for listening.